And compromise seems to be the deal that Washington loves to hate. Joining me now, two men on opposite sides of the battle. Mort Zuckerman, editor-in-chief of US News and World Report, and Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform. Mort Zuckerman, let me start with you. Clearly a deal without any tax increases at all, when many economists around the world say America's economy desperately needs them. What was your view?
Well, I believe that there should have been tax increases, if only for a political matter, because everybody in this country, it seems to me, has to be seen to be participating in what I'd call shared sacrifice. And that was the way to get it done. You needed also a bipartisan approach to this thing, because if we were going to do anything serious, both parties had to assume responsibility for it. And that was another thing that was lost. There was a moment there, I thought, where the Boehner, when he came to the president, had $800 billion in tax, the elimination of what I would call tax expenditures, or whatever you want to call it, all these special deals that are built into our tax code that so distort our economy. And that money was going to go and rationalize the tax code, and I think that would have been a real stimulus to the economy. But the president, frankly, introduced another $400 billion request for tax increases and blew that deal out the water. So you've had lousy leadership on both sides, as far as I'm concerned.
Grover Norquist, you've won the day. You were implacably opposed to any tax increases. Many Republicans signed up to that, and you've got what you wanted. Here's the question for you. If I get you back on the show in a month's time, are you absolutely certain that this taxation at any cost policy of yours will mean that the economy will have recovered?
Well, it moves us at least in the right direction. Certainly we didn't get as much spending restraint as Republicans wanted. There was a tremendous amount of compromise. The Republican budget passed through the House was a $6 trillion cut in Obama's planned spending, the Ryan plan. What we got was $2.5 trillion. That's a lot of give on the part of the Republicans. What the Republicans were not willing to do was to raise taxes rather than cut spending. Mort Zuckerman said the reason he wanted a tax increase was because you had to do that to get the spending cuts. That's the reasoning of 1982. That is the reasoning of 1990. Both failed budget deals where the tax increases were real, the spending cuts were phony. What we learned in this, and that's the good news, is that you don't have to raise taxes as part of some deal. What you can do is focus on the problem, too much spending. And that's exactly what we did. It was bipartisan. You saw quite a number of Democrats in the House vote for it. The president says he's for it. He's a big Democrat. And Democrats in the Senate will vote for it. We have a bipartisan spending cut.
Here's the thing, Grover. Here's the thing, Grover. And I've listened to you espousing this for a few weeks, and you've had a good day today. My point is this. Both Presidents Reagan and Clinton raised taxes in slow economies and went on to have very good economies. There's nothing in principle intrinsically wrong with it. And my issue with your implacable position is, at what point does it stop being implacable? At what point, with the economy continuing, let's assume the worst case scenario, because the markets are already responding badly to this deal. Let's assume the economy continues to tank in America. Let's assume that the credit rating gets downgraded. Let's assume things get a lot worse before any sign of improvement here. At what point do you and the Republicans that agree with your position on taxation stop and think, actually, to consider it?
I don't think that putting leeches on a patient is ever a good idea. I don't care how sick the patient gets or how well the patient gets. Putting leeches on the patient is not a good idea. Raising taxes does not help the economy. As a matter of fact, if the two cases you talked about, Reagan had a significant rate reduction, then some tax increases. The tax cuts were what helped grow the economy. With Clinton, what happened was the economy didn't turn around until the Republicans captured the House and the Senate. They also cut the capital gains tax. So
let me bring in Mort Zuckerman again, who's smiling wryly at the description of leeches here. Mort, over to you.
Well, look, let me just say this. I do agree that there's a fundamental issue here that we all have to face, which that our expenditures as a country way exceed our income. And it is, as Erskine Bowles said, this is the most predictable crisis in the country's history, and we absolutely have to do something about it. But it's a political process as well as an economic process. And with all due respect, I do believe, A, we should have had much more in the way of expenditure cuts, if not right in the short run because of a weak economy, but over the next several years we should have had larger cuts in expenditures. And if it took a modest amount of tax increases to get that done, I would have supported it. I do agree that we absolutely must do something about this deficit, because otherwise we're going to break the fiscal side of this economy and break the economy. We cannot support the kinds of deficits that we have incurred. There's just no question about that. And frankly, I think any reasonable economist would say that.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much.